So I'm just curious, how'd you get into the donut business?
We opened the 3 locations within 60 days of each other, which was very difficult.
Like, I'm a marketing guy through and through.
Right.
So I want to hear all about what you got going on.
Yeah, it's less about owning real estate for us right now and more about finding the right spots.
Just be like, all right, we're going to buy one. Or did you know I'm going to buy one and I want to do 6 or 7? Today, we're sitting down with the owner of Jeff's Donut. If you're a Louisville guy, you know what it is. They're awesome. He has started 7 locations by himself. Before he started the franchise, we're going to talk about franchising, owning business, the donut industry, everything you could ever possibly know. Let's jump right in. How you doing?
Cameron, I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So we've already briefly talked before we got on the podcast, and you've done a lot. So I'm just curious, how'd you get up in the donut business?
So yeah, I can tell you that 5 years ago, I could not have imagined being in the donut business. And like a lot of opportunities, it was sort of something that we sought out and a little bit of luck. So I've actually been in the restaurant business my whole life. Sort of serial restaurant entrepreneur, and my business partner and I were involved in and still own the cafe restaurant down in Paristown, and we were developing the Village Market, which is a food hall concept there. And through a series of kind of serendipitous memories and events, we thought about the idea of finding Jeff's Donuts, which has been around for a long time in southern Indiana, started by a guy named Wes Brown many years ago. And my partner Mike said, we ought to go find that guy and let's see if we can't get him in the Village Market. And so fast forward probably a year, we opened our first store in November of 21, right in the middle of COVID on Dutchman's Lane, under a license agreement with Jeff. He wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing before he said, okay, you can buy the whole thing. And it was a tremendous success right away. We were very excited about the possibility, and we bought Jeff and his sister Diane out very shortly after that and put gas on the fire. And here we are 4 years later with 7 locations and in the franchising business. So
yeah,
very exciting.
So you just said gas on the fire. What does gas on the fire look like for a business that's been a family-owned business for however long to now 7 locations? Like, what does that look like?
So, slightly terrifying, to be honest, in the beginning. And the terrifying part of it is that when you buy someone else's business and you buy someone else's name, I mean, the business is called Jeff's Donuts. I can't tell you how many times I get called Jeff, which is just fine with me. I'm getting used to that. But there's a risk associated with growing or even taking someone else's business over that's been a sole or serial entrepreneur for the entire existence of that business. And so the terrifying part is making sure that at least for us, we thought about this very, very carefully, making sure that we were true to the roots, that we understand what we were getting, that we tried not to be smarter than the room, which we weren't. We didn't know anything about donuts at the time. And we just knew what worked. We knew what we thought the business, we knew what we thought made it work. Jeff was also very intentional about what he thought made it work. And so we had to make sure that we honored that as we expanded. And so that was really our main focus. If it's, it ain't broke, don't fix it. People say it a million times, and it's for a reason. That things were working in that original location, in our first location that we opened. And so we're really intentional about making sure that we just didn't try to get smarter than our history. And at the same time, as you grow, as we've grown, different types of locations, different types of clientele, we've learned a ton about making donuts, about selling donuts, about locations, about growth, operations down to the tiny little nits that sort of come naturally if you're an entrepreneur and or a mom and pop sole practitioner, but that don't necessarily come naturally as you expand. So, we've worked really hard to kind of honor the past and to hang on to the traditions that brought us where we are, but at the same time, recognize that if we're going to grow, the brand has to evolve, and there's real intentionality around that word evolution. It's not just change for change's sake. It's not growth away from our history or our past, but it's just an evolution and, taking next steps to develop the brand, which I know you certainly understand that in your business. And so it's been an exciting ride so far, and we're really excited about next steps.
Now, when starting another franchise is costly, like you open another location, there's a lot of capital invested.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys already, because you said you owned a place in the cafe?
Yep.
You already owned that?
Yep.
Did you guys have the idea of, okay, the cafe is profitable, this is another venture? Also, what made you interested about it? Like, why Jeff?
It started with the quality. And it's kind of funny. My partner, Mike, who passed away about a year and a half ago, health nut. I mean, I didn't see him eat a piece of cheese or a piece of steak for the first 28 years that we were partners. He certainly wasn't going to be a regular donut guy, but he had remembered years before. So this is go back to the probably early 2010s. Someone at one of our other businesses had brought Jeff's Donuts to a manager meeting, and he had remembered that, and I had not remembered it, but got reminded of it when we went over to see what Jeff was doing in Southern Indiana. And the thing that just stood out was, these donuts are great. I mean, the quality and the craftsmanship was outstanding. So it starts with, at least for us, it started with the quality. And the more we got to know about the business, the more excited we got about just how the business was run, the production process, the intentionality of menu, the intentionality of being 24-hour business, which we are in 6 of our 7 locations. And frankly, it's a very, very profitable business as well. The return on investment's good, relatively inexpensive to get in, certainly not as expensive as the full-service restaurant business. So locations are easier and less expensive. The staffing was better. Better is the wrong word. It's different, a little easier to manage. In the process, it's simple, but it's not easy. Right? Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of work, but it's a way less complex business than running a full-service restaurant, which is what I've been doing my whole career. So the initial attraction was that quality and just that kind of wow factor of just how good that product was. And then as we got to know more about it, it just the story kind of filled out and continued to make sense. And then we really felt like this was something in the end that we could have some fun with. And, that's a thing that entrepreneurs miss a lot. I know I did in, my earlier days. Business it's hard and it's lonely at times, and, you're grinding it out, you're taking a lot of risk, and but there's a fun, joyous process to what we do. And joy is one of our core values at Jeff's. And we try to extrovert that every day in everything we do. And that's been really fun. So it was sort of the icing on the cake, no pun intended, icing on the donut. I should probably change that phrase. Mm-hmm. So of all the things that attracted us as we started to think about it and experiment with it, we're like, this is really fun. And it continues to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, any new venture, especially as an entrepreneur, like I definitely have a habit of I got to start more businesses. Mm-hmm. I've done it plenty of times, and I've made a lot of failed ones, and I have some that are doing great. It just happens over time. Now with you guys, when it comes to Jeff, you had your capital from the cafe. I'm sure you guys accrued profit and had that. Did you guys just be like, all right, we're going to buy one? Or did you know I'm going to buy one and I want to do 6 or 7?
Our intention in the beginning was, especially once we understood the financial model and the relative risk and ROI of that initial capital investment, we sort of said, look, we'd like to do multiples of these. Everybody starts with one, right? One, whatever it is, one podcast, one location, one marketing customer, and then you see where it goes from there. So we were. It did not surprise us that we wanted to do multiples, and that was always the intent. Now, I couldn't tell you 4 years ago when at this time we were starting to negotiate 4 years ago the purchase of the original business and all the intellectual property and all of that from Jeff and Diane. And I didn't know exactly what the path wanted to look like, but I had an idea of where we thought we could go. And the business really felt scalable and felt like it deserved an opportunity to grow and see what it could become. So it's always been on our radar to grow it. And now 4 years and change later, that's definitely borne itself out.
Now, how do you guys make sure that you aren't cannibalizing your own business by having so many locations in one area?
Man, great question. And we've learned a lot. It was sort of one of the values of the relatively low get-in cost, capital investment up front, and the ROI even at lower sales volumes. So we weren't just throwing darts at a map. We were intentional about our location selection, but we built 3 locations very quickly. We opened them 3 locations within 60 days of each other, which was very difficult. Mm-hmm. My operations folks remind me of that pretty regularly. And what we did learn was we honed our real estate site selection criteria a little bit. We learned what worked well and what didn't work as well. We had an idea of the type of site that we wanted, but as we chose sites and built more stores, that sort of got polished. And so that was great. And then one of the things we did learn was that people will travel for our donuts. And we've known that since the beginning. When Jeff and his sister Diane had the one location in Southern Indiana, they were sought out by people from all over the area. People would constantly, we hear it all the time, I'm not crossing that bridge for anything, but I'll go cross it for Jeff's Donuts. And so we knew people would travel. And we learned that in our first early stores. And what we learned was that we did reach a point where we just made it a little bit more convenient for our customers to buy our product. And there's something great about that. That's nice. But I think it's also helped us refine a little bit of what a typical city build out or a territory build out might look like, which I think makes it even more attractive to a potential investor, potential franchisee, knowing that the market penetration, to get the market penetration that you want, doesn't necessarily require just going and building as many locations as you possibly can. It's probably a little bit more about quality and setting some particular targets about unit volume goals and unit volume return on investment. And so that lesson for us has been, I don't want to say it's been a hard-learned lesson because we have great locations and they're all doing well. But we certainly did learn a lot about how that customer and the market perceives availability and locations and that kind of thing. So it's a good question. It's one we've thought about a lot, and we continue to think about as we look at expansion markets and work with our real estate folks to try to let's find the right spots. It's not just about going and opening as many as we can in a particular market.
Do you guys like to own the land you're on or lease it?
We don't own any of our land in this particular business. And like owning real estate in our past restaurant ventures, so it doesn't always work out that way. But for this concept, our stores are relatively small, 1,500 square feet, 1,600 square feet. They're in strip centers, so it's a lot easier to find that real estate that, developers, sometimes they're small developers, sometimes they're big REITs and national concerns that already own that real estate. So it's less about owning real estate for us right now and more about finding the right spots. But as we grow, there will be opportunities for us to look at real estate a little differently. I mean, we don't have a drive-through location right now, for instance, and that's on our development path. We're designing a kind of a basic standard drive-through layout right now, working through the details of operationally how that would work, putting equipment and that kind of specs together. And so if we want to build a drive-through, we're probably going to have to do that on leased ground, which means that we'll have to look at some we'll have an opportunity to look at some ground purchase at some point. So we don't want to tie up a ton of capital in real estate at this point, but we know that there will be others who will be happy to tie up capital in real estate because that's what they do. So we're excited to kind of expand the way we think about the ideal locations and working on site selection scorecards and all that kind of stuff that just helps us evolve the business to its next generation, making good decisions about locations and real estate. So yeah, owning real estate is great. Owning real estate that you operate is also great, but you're doubling down on your risk, but it's also can be pretty rewarding when you get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with growing this many locations, what does your guys' marketing plan look like? Marketing budget? Like, I'm a marketing guy through and through,
right?
So I want to hear all about what you got going on.
Yeah. So there are a couple of components to that. We have a what we call new market entry process or package. Involves a lot of PR, a lot of early earned media. It involves getting out in the community and just for instance, when we opened Lexington a year ago, we worked with a PR firm that helped us get some good exposure. Nobody knew Jeff's Donuts in Lexington, and so getting the media interested, finding some influencers that could help us get the word out. There's a whole concept I couldn't have conceived of 10 years ago from a marketing standpoint. And making those relationships in the community were really important. And when we're getting open, we're making donuts while we're practicing and training and learning, and we're taking those donuts and giving them away in the community. And so building all of those connections and opportunities to just get our brand out there early on resulted in some really big early success in Lexington. And obviously the power of social media is not to be denied. So the opportunity to get people talking about it and just the excitement about it was really cool to see. So that was, we're pleased with how that process went, and it was, again, very intentional. We got a lot of it right, and we worked with some good partners, and we've got a great marketing team internally as well. And then I think on an ongoing basis, it's still an evolution for us. I mean, we have a marketing budget. Obviously, we're intentional about spending money we spend a lot of money just on website and web traffic and SEO and all the things that go along with that. We're certainly active on social media. We could be more active. We could work, and we're looking to engage, our fans a little bit more. And we think that's a big opportunity. We have a huge loyalty program. We have, over 50,000 loyalty members, and a large portion of our traffic comes from those loyal members, and so there's a marketing channel there that we take advantage of. We do a lot of third-party delivery. That has grown just incredibly. We for the first 2 years we were open, we didn't do any third-party delivery at all, and now it's a significant portion of our business. Online ordering and that, all those channels out there. We're trying to make sure that when people are thinking about treating themselves, thinking about, they don't have to be thinking about donuts, though we certainly love that. But when they're thinking about just a sweet treat or just doing something nice for someone else, we want to be there to remind them that, hey, Jeff's Donuts is a great way to do that. So, and I think in the future, as we grow, community engagement will continue to be a big part of our our marketing plans. Just being present at events. We bought a fancy tent. It's pretty fancy. We like to be out in the community and sharing donuts and it really is a lot of fun how much people connect with something that on the one hand is pretty simple, but on the other can be really meaningful.
Yeah, it's always hard because a lot of people will own a mom and pop shop, and I think the fail rate of food and restaurants is super high.
It's nuts.
It's hard to do it. It really is hard. And you guys being able to take that and grow it to where you're at now, what do you think is different from what you've done versus what other people do?
Boy, that's a great question, and it's something we work really hard at. Our team, we talk about this all the time, that we're going from a people business to a process business. That's really what scaling anything has to be. And it's not people as in people aren't important. It's people, in particular people. When you've got somebody whose name is on the door or who has the keys to the kingdom with regard to a process or how something gets done, that's really hard to scale. And quite frankly, probably irresponsible to try to scale without understanding, going from 1 to 2 is way harder than, you think it is. It's not double hard. It's, 10 times hard. It's like going from zone defense to man. If you have one kid, you can play pretty easy zone defense. When you got 2, you're man to man all day long. And I think the same is true with scale, whether it's locations or just particular growth outside of, the founders or the people who are working at one location. So, we talk a lot. We've built processing, and I've been in the restaurant business my whole life, and always as an entrepreneur, small, locally owned businesses. But there's only you can't brute force your way through that success. I mean, you really have to create process and put people in a position where they know what to do and how to get it executed to be successful. So, it's could be little things like training or big things like cost management systems. And so we spend a lot of time and money on tech stack, and we spend a lot of time and money on communications with staff. We're really think hard about how to hire the right folks and put our people in a position where they're finding the right people who are going to make it work. And that's still, again, an evolution. I mean, we're a 7-store concept with one franchisee signed up and under construction right now. So we're early in that game, but we just continue to focus on those pieces that allow people the confidence to execute, and then also make sure that we're keeping an eye on it. I mean, you can't just grow and say, well, yeah, I'm going to trust so and so to get it done. I mean, you got to do the work. You got to put the miles on the car and make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to go.
Yeah. Now, imagine I am a potential investor. Pitch me on doing a franchise with you guys.
First of all, you got to love donuts, right? The reason we think this model has the legs that it does from a franchising standpoint is that all of the little pieces of running restaurants or food service businesses that add difficulty, complexity, cost, there's a sweet spot with what we do, no pun intended there, but the unit economics are really, really good. So we've got, we're looking for relatively small footprints in real estate that are going to be relatively available. We're not looking for, the kind of needle in a haystack locations. The initial investment cost is relatively low. So you could get into one of our stores for a lot less than you can get into even a pizza restaurant or, a sandwich place. I mean, there's just, it's the initial capital investment's relatively low. Our cost of goods is super low. So we manage that really well. We have a lot of waste, intentional waste. When donuts don't meet our standards and we're making them and putting them in the display case, if they're not sold after a certain amount of time, we're not selling them. So even all that built into the model, the cost of goods is really good. Average unit volume is high. So we take all of our locations and average them out, and the top 3 of our locations are all doing about $1.5 million in average unit volume, which is great. And so you kind of do all the math problem. Math problem really works. Low investment, low cost of goods, high average unit volume, relatively low cost of real estate. I mean, our real estate costs are are super low compared to our competitors. So the math problem really works. That makes one piece of the franchising attractive to folks, I think. Additionally, there's a simplicity to the model that especially people coming from full service or even quick service restaurant world are going to really appreciate. Our transaction times are super short. So even when we're busy, we can pump people through the process from beginning to end very quickly, and it doesn't feel rushed. It's just the process. We've designed the process to be quick. So there's a simplicity to the way we price we have a single price model. So every donut's the same price. If you buy 10, it's 10 times the price. If you buy 100, it's 100 times the price. So makes the decision-making process quick and easy. Our staffing model is also unusual in the restaurant world. I come from a world in the restaurant business where you've got split shifts and people have availability all over the place, and it's like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. In our Jeff's world, almost every one of our employees is a full-time employee that works 5 8-hour shifts a week. And so the staffing is in quantum changes, not, hour by hour. We have a relatively low number of employees per transaction, per customer. There are a million ways you can measure that. So you're not hiring, I don't have to go hire 40 people to run a donut store. I got somewhere between 10 and 15 people per store. And so the staffing model is relatively straightforward. There's a craftsmanship to what we do, which makes it fun to hire and train, but there's also a lot of repeatability in what we've built from a process standpoint. So we're not just like hoping that the craftsmen in Columbus, Ohio, or Nashville, Tennessee are doing what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So there's a really interesting balance there. And then I think the other thing that's attractive about it for people, and I mentioned it earlier, is that it's fun. I mean, it is, standing in the store, watching customers come in and interact with staff and pick donuts and watching the kids' eyes. And I mean, it's a pretty joyful business. And so, in the end, there are these little touches like that, like the unit economics, the relative simplicity of the process that we think is attractive. And it's attractive to folks, we think, who are both mom and pop folks that are looking to, find a franchise business that they can own and operate. And we think it can be attractive also to the kind of the existing multi-unit operators who have an infrastructure. They own X number of fast food restaurants or pizza restaurants in a market, so they know the market. They have an operations infrastructure and an oversight infrastructure. They have an accounting team. So adding this to a portfolio, we think could be pretty interesting as well. So again, we're in the very early stages of that. Our one franchisee in Columbus, Ohio, he and his wife Jeff and Sheila are going to be terrific. And we're having a number of other conversations with folks, and we're kind of looking forward to getting that first store opened, and then lighting the torch to start selling some more franchises.
Yeah. Now, can you share some of the logistics behind owning one? Like, there was a Kona Ice conference in Cincinnati, and Kona Ice was like a really interesting model because I think the franchise fee is like a flat $6,000 for the year. Done. Wow. Well, but with Restore, we're at a 9% franchise fee,
right?
Which is pretty rough,
right?
So everyone's different. What are some of the logistics there?
Yeah. So for us, we tried to find a good middle ground. We had a lot of really good conversations with folks that we know in the franchising world, and we've been. If you spend any time in Louisville, you get to know almost everybody, and you're usually one step away from people you don't know. Mm-hmm. So lots of smart folks with a lot of experience in town and elsewhere that we've sort of tapped to test the model. And we wanted to be in sort of the middle of the range of franchise fees and royalties. Our franchise fee is $40,000 a store. Royalties are 6%. As you said, there are some that are in the high single digit, low double digit range, and so we we want to be in a place where people will look at it and say, okay, that's not going to be a barrier to my entry. And looking at the math backwards, I mean, you can look at the math problem forwards and backwards, and we know what it takes to support a store. We know what it takes to support a market, and we're doing that right now. I've been doing it for a number of years. So we think that it's a good middle ground that makes it affordable and reasonable for franchisees, and still is the value that it needs to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people need to realize, like, one of my clients, I've worked with them for years. Like, Restore like my baby, like one of my favorite clients I work with. And the point of a franchise fee is for marketing, budget, operations, and improving, like they've built the thing. Like, you built the thing, it works well. And it's like, hey, you're buying into the thing I built.
Right.
And we did all the work though, and we're going to market it. For you guys, how do you plan on using those franchise fees to, like, just scale everything else for the client?
You said it best. I mean, as far as franchising goes, I mean, why would somebody buy any franchise? It's because you're buying a proven concept. Someone else has done the work, and that's an important distinction. And at the same time, if I'm buying a franchise, I want to know that the people behind that franchise are not just, holding their ground. That, the landscape, especially in today's business world, changes so quickly. And, we talk about it all the time. We're true to our roots and appropriately innovative. We want to be both of those things, and we can't be appropriately innovative by just resting on our laurels. We've got to try new stuff. We've got to be bold, but we don't need to be today's flavor either. So I think those franchise fees help us continue to develop the concept, to make sure that we're polishing it. And that's why we're also operators as well. We're not going to be a franchise-only business. We have company stores, and those stores are our proving ground, along with our franchise partners, to make sure that we're testing, we're trying, we're experimenting, and that we're constantly evolving the brand, as it deserves. And then we have a responsibility to make sure that franchisees can operate well, and that involves training, it involves oversight, it involves continued development of marketing and brand identity. It's about supply chain and making sure that we own and control the supply chain in the appropriate way, that we leverage the size of our business as it scales to make it good for everybody. So again, I think that's what the franchisee is paying for, and for us to use those dollars to continue to reinvest in the process it continue to help us grow.
Yeah. Now share some numbers with us in regards to, because here's one thing I say about the Louisville market. Like, my podcast studio is doing awesome, and we're in the Louisville market.
Yep.
Like, it's not a big market.
Right.
Like, there is much bigger. So give us some rough numbers of what the super average Jeff's Donuts is doing. Because even then, like, someone in maybe, a big city like Nashville or LA could be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah. I think, again, our target average unit volume is $1.5 million for an existing type of store, what we call our kind of base model store. And again, half of our locations are doing that. We expect, as we hone the site selection criteria and just continue to get better at, like, finding those right spots, as well as developing new to market penetration and PR and ongoing marketing and brand presence stuff, that we can get that done. That's a nice thing. Also is that if we don't get that done, the business is still profitable. I mean, even at the lowest volumes, we're profitable, and in the stores, every store's adding its appropriate cash contribution to the overall bucket. And we also feel like, as we develop the concept more, we're working on some beverage menu innovation, for instance, and kind of taking that to a new level. As I mentioned earlier, we're working on a drive-through that we think can be a big deal for us. And so we think we can grow those numbers, finding the right sites, the right partners, and then continuing to innovate the business in a way that that drives those unit volumes north. So we sort of are. It's there's a ton of operational stuff, and there's a ton of cranking down the details and the numbers of paper cost and small wares and all the supplies and the food cost chain and all that. But ultimately, our goal is to drive an average unit volume for franchisees and for company stores that really makes it sing. So,
do you guys have that number in your head yet of like average time to ROI for like, let's say if the build out's 250 or 300, you're like, 2-3 years.
Yeah, where our average time to repay the initial investment on our first store was less than a year. And on average, we would expect, based on our franchise disclosure document stuff on the details of item 19, I think it is. My attorneys will be happy to know that I remembered that. We think it's 2 years or under.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's where the fun can be for the potential franchisee as well. If you can get unit volume good, the cost to get in the store is relatively low, so the risk is relatively low. We're not buying main real estate, and so you wouldn't see us, for instance, in the paddock shops or Shelbyville Road Plaza. Then it's $50 or $60 a square foot triple net, and not only is that doesn't fit our model, but that location type. I mean, those locations are great for the right businesses. They're just not the types of locations that we're looking for. So we want something that's more visible to the road, more accessible, quick in and out, and so driving around the maze of parking lots or trying to pull off of Shelbyville Road in Middletown, for instance, to remember which of the three layers of retail the business is in. Again, there's a ton of businesses that do really well there and a lot of great developers that have built a lot of great real estate in town. But that model for us is not what we want. It doesn't work for us. So, so all of those little things help lower the risk, lower the initial capital risk, and even on a lower average unit volume, the returns can still be good. But at the high level, it's really good. Less than 2 years is in this type of business a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, it's hard. And I've worked with surprisingly a lot of franchisees, people who've owned multiple franchises and food, whatever business, and I'm still not sure what the it factor is. Like, I don't exactly know why. Like, some just really kill and some don't.
Yeah.
What would you say? I kind of asked this before. I want to really hone in on the question of like if you want to be a franchisee, like, what do you need to sacrifice? What do you need to invest? Like, what's really required of you to make this work?
When you thinking, are you talking from a capital or financial standpoint, or from a time and energy and effort standpoint, or just the mental energy?
Yes.
Yeah. I think. So it sort of depends. Well, let's take my Columbus franchisees as an example. Jeff and Sheila, terrific people. I've known Jeff for 25 years. He's a general contractor. He's done a lot of work in the restaurant space. He works hard. He's smart. Sheila works hard. She's smart. They're connected. They're super energized. They're passionate about doing this. I think that's it feels so trite to say that you got to be passionate, because everyone's going to say that. Passion alone is not going to pay the bills. Like, there are plenty of people passionate about stuff that never works or that didn't have a shot to be successful. But I think that it's sort of table stakes. You got to care about it enough to like really pour yourself into it. So that's number one. Number two, I think you have to be willing to commit to a market. And for us, that's, we do not want to build, if we go to Nashville, for instance, and we open 3 stores in Nashville as company stores, we're not interested in finding a franchisee in Nashville who wants to build out the market. We think for us, creating single ownership markets is ideal. When you have a mixed market where you've got either multiple franchisees in the same market or company and franchise stores in a market, that's sort of not ideal. It can work, and it works for a lot of concepts, but probably adds a hurdle or two that could make it more complicated. So that would be another thing to think about is, am I committed to the market? Can I commit to the full market? From a capital standpoint, there's some sort of ratio of debt and equity works. You can't do it all with debt, especially as a franchisee without a lot of experience. You're either gonna pay way too much for that debt, or you're gonna struggle to find it at all. So, being capitalized in some way is important. For us, I mean, you can get into a Jeff's. We haven't had a store that cost more than $450,000 all in to build, including equipment, leasehold, pre-opening, the whole 9 yards. So, you don't need that sitting in the bank, but you need access to capital, and whether that's money or debt. And then I think you need to understand the model of the business. I mean, we're a 24-hour business, and that's got some operational complexity to it, or at least some operational consideration that many people don't think about. And we're 24 hours very intentionally for some very specific reasons, which I'll share. You have to make sure that you hire the right people and train them properly, because you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you got to find the right folks. And that's where we come in from a process standpoint. We help you train. We help create process for the staff, so that the people who are owning or running the business can have some confidence that, hey, I don't need to be here all the time. But this is not, I think you could do two things as a franchisee. You can either decide you're going to buy yourself a job that you might really, really love, and you're going to work 70 hours a week in that particular store, and that's going to be your thing. Or you're going to build out an organization or a market that's big enough that you can live up here and kind of manage it. What this isn't, and I think, frankly, most franchises are not, is a passive income process. It just doesn't work. I mean, I think there are probably franchises out there, say it like I'm an expert. I am an expert in the restaurant business for sure, and being passive in the restaurant business, it does not work. So you got to be dedicated. That comes back to the passion thing. You got to care about it enough to really pour yourself into it. So yeah, that's my quick laundry list off the top of my head of the stuff you got to get prepared for to get in the business.
Yeah, it's always funny when people say passive investment. I don't think there is any passive investment.
No.
Man, if you have an investing portfolio, guess what you got to do? Have a financial advisor advise it for you and monitor that 24/7.
Right. Well, and your customers, I mean, your clients on the marketing side of things, I mean, they're not just sitting back, collecting mailbox money. You gotta do the work.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's always funny how much work my clients think it is, because they're like, "Well, I pay you," and I'm like, "Who's going to call your leads?"
Right.
It's like, you have 500 people. Who needs to follow up with them now?
Right.
So I'll make all the automations, but guess who they want to hear from? The face.
Right.
And if you can, that's where I've learned a lot of my clients, part of what I do is I say, hey, you need a face to rally behind. Like, people buy from me and want to sell like for me, which is great, because sometimes it drives a lot of revenue. It's also not great because I'm not available all the time.
Right.
But I'm sure as an owner of a franchise location, and it's just like the ones I've worked with, if you can be the face, be around, be in the community, like you're the spokesperson.
Right.
People are because they like you. They want to buy from a person. They don't want to buy from an organization.
Right. And
they have that face behind it. That's there.
Well, and I agree 100%. And it made me think in the back of my head of one of, our other core values. It talks about hospitality, and, we're very intentionally in the hospitality business. And that's what I've grown up in. And, a significant portion of our customers buy product from us in a way that doesn't really feel like hospitality to me. Online ordering from third-party delivery services or online to pick up, it works. Obviously, we're not going to shun that channel. It's huge, and people, we want to be where people are when they're ready to buy, however they want to buy. And I figured out a long time ago that people make buying decisions about how they want to buy before they make a decision about what they want to buy. So if you're not in that channel, you ain't getting that business. Mm-hmm. And so it's all great stuff for us. But we don't want to be in the kiosk ordering business face-to-face. We don't want to be And if you want to do that, that's fine. You can order on your phone and you can pick up and you don't have to talk to a single human being. But I also want you to be greeted with a smile when you walk in the door and when it's your first time in a Jeff's Donuts and you're looking at the case of 40-something donuts and it's overwhelming and you don't know what you want, and you don't know how. I want somebody to be your guide through that purchasing process, so you're not just like punching pictures on a screen. And we think that's important. It's important to us. It's one of our key core values. And so it's back to being the face. I want my folks, my sales team in the store, I want them to be the face that our customers really connect with. And that's really been gratifying and super exciting as well, is just watching the connections that our customers have with our employees. And, you don't have to stand very long in any of our stores before you watch a customer walk in, and before the door closes behind them, what that customer wants is already in a bag or a box, because that donut salesperson knows, okay, Cameron's here, and I know his favorite thing is chocolate glazed donut, and I've already got it in a bag for him, ready to go. Mm-hmm. So those are the really fun touches when you can extrovert sort of the hospitality of one, whether it's me or whether it's the founder or whether it's that face behind the business. If you can drive that down to all of the touches that someone might have in the business, that's really fun. And frankly, it's also in our business the only way to scale. Mm-hmm. And look, we're technology driven. We have tech matters to us. We're partially in the technology business because there's so many of our customers are using technology, and we're working on apps, and we're doing all the things, right, that everybody in a scaling business does. But in the end, it's about people for us.
Yeah. What is it? There's some quote that's like something like that, but it's basically, if you do the unscalable things, that's going to be the reason why you scale.
Right.
Like, it's unscalable to write a handwritten note that goes in every to-go box. Mm-hmm. It's unscalable to send out, Christmas letters to all your clients.
Right.
You do this at scale, but that's going to be the reason why you scale.
I love that. Somebody said it to me in a way. You have to. There's something every business is bad at, and you have to lean into the thing you're bad at that doesn't make any sense. And for us, we chose waste as a thing. If you go hire a consultant, somebody's going to come in and go, "Oh, you're wasting way too much stuff. You're throwing this away. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that." Like, we're going to lean into that because our intentionality around waste improves product quality and improves guest experience, and so that's okay. Like, we'll doesn't mean it's just waste at any cost, right? But we're okay with that unscalable thing, or that one thing that people might look at and go, mm-hmm. You got to fix that. If the box is another thing, I brought in 2 dozen donuts when I walked in the door. With one of the first things that cost conscious people say will be like, "Oh, you got to change that box. That box looks expensive." I'm like, no, that box is expensive and it means something, mm-hmm. and it's part of the brand. It's part of the experience. So I think you're right. You pick those things that may seem like either not scalable or things that would be in the way of profitability or ease of process or what have you. And like, no, there's a reason we do it that way.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients that I've worked with, and they will never give their phone number out to a client to save their life. Like, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And I have all of my clients on my phone, and it's constantly ringing. But the number one compliment I get, "Cameron, you reply faster than anyone I've ever met."
Yep.
It's not scalable, but man, do they love it.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that you can find ways. I mean, I know you and I chatted in the beginning that you're finding ways to be able to scale a brand that is your brand, and you're the brand at this point. And so you're going to get a lot of people who are going to want to like have access to you, and there's only one you. So that can be difficult, but you can still find ways to get people on your team to get the believers that are like, okay, we're going to go be your eyes and ears out there. We may not be you, but we can still make a difference.
Yeah. Well, and back when you said about passion, if they're equally as, the reason a lot of people are driven towards certain individuals is the charisma, the energy they have towards a thing. Your Columbus people seem like they're really pumped about it.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tangible thing they can get in the sale process of, getting people to come in and buy donuts. People buy donuts just because they like them. They don't want the donuts.
Right. Sheila says this all the time. She's like, I cannot wait for the first phone call I get from a prospective franchisee calling me to say, what's it like to be a Jeff's Donut franchisee? She's like, I'm just so excited to be a part of that. And that's that passion that, extends beyond just the doing of the thing, just really understanding the big picture is really cool.
Yeah. Now, let's go like way back. Why being an entrepreneur? Why not work for someone else?
Oh, it's, everybody's got their origin story. I grew up in a family restaurant business, and that's all I ever knew. And, I peeled carrots when I was 12 and filled vending machines and did all sorts of fun stuff. And I went to school and got a degree in engineering, and I had no interest in being in the restaurant business. And then once I figured out what engineers did all day long, I was a computer and electrical engineer. I'm like, that doesn't look like actually very much fun. I love the math of it and I love the science of it, but the day-to-day of it, and so many people get that. And you go to college, you're 18 years old. What do you know about what real work looks like in that particular field? You have an affinity for something, and then you get out and go, ooh, maybe this is not really what I bargained for. So, I came home, worked for my family's business, bought it from my father very soon after, and it was I was a fourth generation. It was a business that was dying and difficult, but I learned a ton. And what I learned more than anything is I have come to enjoy being in charge and working through and with a great team of people. But what I really like most about the entrepreneurial side of things is that it's just different every day. I mean, there's something to learn every day. No day is the same. As much as you think you can create schedule and process, reality breaks that constantly. And just over the years, I enjoyed that and liked the risk and liked the challenge. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it's struggle. You mentioned that earlier. You got, businesses that do well and then they don't, or businesses you think are going to do well and don't, or businesses that you sort of stumble into that end up being really successful. So, it's what I've known for, 40 plus years of my career. And I'm grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful. I have a fantastic team of people that I've sort of collected over the years that have been with me. My two women who work in my office have been with me, one over 40 years and one just under 40. I've got some general managers and other folks that have been with me for several decades. And that's a lot of fun. And then in cultivating and curating new relationships, our operations director at Jeff's, Jessica is her name, started out as a donut clerk, and she's now running 7 stores and just watching her grow into that role and helping be a part of her development. That's all the really cool stuff about the business. So, for me, it comes down to people, and I've enjoyed, as an entrepreneur, being a part of just making that happen. And there are times, and I think all entrepreneurs probably go through this, where, I wish I was putting on a suit and driving to a big office somewhere, and that's long ago. I don't wish that anymore, but, I had friends who traveled for business, and boy, doesn't that look fun. And, it's, I realized that a long time ago that however great that might look, grass is always greener kind of thing. It's not for me. And so I've been here doing this and I love the work. So here we are.
Yeah, it's the guy who's just in here before you came. His name's Henry. He's the guy, one of the operating partners of the Restore franchises.
Yep.
I worked for him for like $16 an hour 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he's been one of my first clients, stayed with me through it, and he's seen me grow into like making more money than his locations make now. And he's like, it's pretty cool. I told him, I was like, dude, life was so much simpler when I would just show up for a shift. I'd work, do the thing. When it's done, it's done. Mm-hmm. But didn't feel like I was everything I could be. Didn't feel like I was challenged enough. Like, it's kind of like the pain of being a business owner is what's fulfilling. And if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be fulfilling.
Right. Well, and I watched some of your videos, talking about your transition from, where you had been in your career to where you are now and where you're going. And I think it's not for everybody. And it also doesn't have to be forever. I mean, there are plenty of opportunities to try different things. That's one of the things that I think has really changed in the arc of my career I think it's been a societal change as much as anything. But, there are not a lot of fourth generation business owners, family business owners out there anymore. And probably weren't that many of them to begin with, but the thinking about work was different when I was younger. I mean, my father and his father before him, I mean, there were no exit strategies. There were no, groups of like-minded folks that would get together to share ideas. You just put your head down and you ground it out. And then, your succession plan was that somebody in the family is going to take over the business, and you just keep going. And they're not, again, that was what was then, and that still happens today, no doubt. But I do know that there are a lot of business owners out there my age or older that don't have succession plans, that woke up and go, hey, the kids aren't interested in this business, or I don't have the energy for it anymore, and things change, and so often people just didn't think about that. They didn't think about people got into business without thinking about how to get out of business. And it's not so much about exit strategy with regard to selling a business as much as it is just thinking about a strategy beyond starting something and going to work every day. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the ease of doing it for someone else, is you don't have to think about any of that. You just show up. I was jealous of the folks that could, retire after 40 years as an assistant in the mailroom. I mean, very, very different kind of life, mm-hmm. Not necessarily better or not necessarily worse. And, different people thrive in those different kinds of environments. But I do think that's one of the things that I've learned just about being an entrepreneur, being in general in business, is thinking a little bit more broadly about strategy long-term. What's the future look like? What do you want the future to look like? And creating some collegiality. I mean, that's another thing that I think can be difficult about being an entrepreneur or being your own boss. It can be pretty lonely. Don't have, you're talking to people every day, and you're working with clients, or you're working with staff, or you got other customers, and I'm greeting people at a table, or saying hi to folks at a donut shop, or working with our employees, or working with our vendors. I mean, it's not lonely in the sense that you're isolated. It's just lonely because nobody sits in your chair. You don't have a lot of colleagues. And I wish that as a younger entrepreneur, I had spent more time looking for those opportunities to develop relationships. And it's one of the things I love about what I'm doing right now, is that, I'm talking to a lot of folks a lot about just business and life, and thinking about things a little bit more broadly. And some of that it comes with age and experience. But if I had to tell my younger self something else to do differently, that would probably be top of the list. Like, pick your head up every now and then, look around, find some friends, because it does get lonely. And if you don't go find those relationships, they're going to pass you by. So,
yeah, that hit home. That hits home. So I'm 26. I don't know 26-year-olds doing what I do.
Yeah,
it's hard because it's most people who are doing what I'm doing don't have time to go hang out and do all the things, which mm-hmm. I totally get. And I agree. It's something that I'm currently working through right now, of like, all right, what does even having friends look like at this stage of life? Like, because I've never had a business this big. Never had so many people demanding things of me 24/7. Like, it's just new, and it's awesome. I love it, mm-hmm. but it's new.
Yeah, and it is. It's you find yourself, like you said, there are not a lot of people in your orbit that can relate to what you're doing, and that also changes over time. I mean, the older you get, the more people you meet, the more connections you get. But I think there was a time, and that would be, I encourage everybody I have a conversation with that's at any age to to, to seek those things out. And it doesn't, there are lots of different ways to do it. I mean, for me, the best way to do it is, ending up somehow you and I are sitting here together having a conversation, and, those serendipitous or kind of less controlled environments are my favorite, just, hey, I get an email from somebody that says, hey, I have a friend, you might be interested in talking to. And, when I trust that person, then whoever they're setting me up with is going to be someone I'm going to learn something from, and, make time to do that. And, never walk away disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so right now as an entrepreneur, final question, where are you challenging yourself the most to grow?
Great. That's a fantastic question. So, we're throughout my whole career, again, if you're an entrepreneur and you're the person in charge, at least for me, as much as I wouldn't consider myself a control freak, and I really don't think I am, I still found myself just being involved in too many pieces of the business. And when I say involved, I mean like a barrier to decisions. Like, oh, well, we don't know what to do. We better check with Wes. And, there's something gratifying about that. When people come to you and you're like, hey, I get to solve problems and I'm helping people get like, that's a big thing for me now. We use a system called EOS. I don't know if you're familiar with
Entrepreneurial
EOS.
Operating System.
Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's changed my life in a lot of great ways. Yep. And without it, we as Jeff's Donuts with 7 locations and growing would not be where we are. We might be somewhere else just as great, but we wouldn't be where we are, and we wouldn't be there in the same way at all. And that has really taught me about delegating, elevating, building a team, accountability, and helped me get a path to some specific goals in the future and setting milestones to get there. I mean, we all will sit, in your quiet moment and say, okay, I have a goal. And a lot of people are really intentional about writing goals down. Other people like me are not as good at it. They're in my head, but they're not in front of me every day. And then, you can find yourself a year later with your head down, grinding it out, going, where am I? And why am I here? And why am I not where I want to be? So that system and that process and the implementer that we use, John Anderson, thank you. I'm going to give a plug. John Anderson has been total game changer for me, and it's helped me, I think, to be a better boss, so that's been the big thing that I'm working on and still trying in the EOS vernacular. There are 2 roles. There's a visionary role and an integrator role. I'm sitting in both of those seats right now. My goal is to not be sitting in both of those seats in the near future. And I recognize now that when I spend more time being the visionary of the business and thinking about what that means in the future, the things go better. So at 61, that's been fun for me. It's been fun to kind of learn some new skills and to be challenged in the way I've always done things. It's keeps me sharp, or maybe sharper than I might otherwise be. So, so I think that's the biggest thing that I'm challenged with, is just make sure that I continue to not be a barrier or an impediment to the growth of my people and the growth of my business.
Yeah. Well, okay. Call to action for yourself. Where can people reach out to someone to maybe start a franchise with Jeff?
So the best thing to do would be to go to jeffsdonuts.com, and we're building our franchise landing page at this moment, but there's also a comment or a contact us section in Jeff's Donuts, or you can email me, Wes at jeffsdonuts.com. Pretty easy to figure that one out. And yeah, we're one of my goals as a visionary is to have a couple of conversations a week with potential franchisees or potential folks who could just help us in some way, shape, or form grow the brand. So, we're the phone lines are open, as they used to say. So, Yeah, and when we get that landing page up, which should be sometime in the next 30 days or so, there'll be a lot of information out there on what it looks like and how to get involved.
Sweet. Well, Wes, thanks for being on.
Cameron, thanks. I appreciate being here, and it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.